Hey, everyone, and welcome back to the Writing Podcast. I'm your host, Adam, and I'm here with Lindsay, as always, or always 5 months ago, or whenever it was we did the last show. Can't remember. But we were talking before we came on, and she claimed she was still working during that time, but I say that she was on vacation for the last 3 months. So, Lindsay, are you hearing an echo by chance?
You sound okay to me.
Okay, I was hearing myself for a second. So anyway, sorry that we started late. So before I moved, we'll get into that, I guess, in a few minutes. So I moved. I used to always have the internet trouble, and now just happened to be on the night right before we started. Lindsay had trouble. So
It's not my fault.
well, at least it came back on after you threatened to call. Who do you have? Cable something? Comcast?
Cable One.
No idea. So
Yeah, it's a small town.
I remember that. So, no, but it's been a long time since we did an episode, and we were both busy in different ways, kind of back and forth. So we haven't been able to do one in a few months, but we are starting up at this new time. So don't be too alarmed. This is our new time, so this isn't a one-time thing. So we're going to start doing these on Sunday nights. So works out better for both of us and hopefully everyone else. We never got many live viewers before because everyone was doing their normal day jobs when we were on. So this should be good all around. But anyway, how have you been for the last 3 to 5 months, Lindsay?
Things are going well. I'm still in Arizona, or back in Arizona. Published a few books as usual. Experimented with a serial with the pen name. I went all back into Amazon KDP Select with the pen name after trying to go wide for about 6 months, and I made about 10 times more in August than I had in the previous 6 months in the other store. So I'm not planning to go wide with my regular stuff. I have too many readers on the other platforms, but boy, it can be tempting if you can actually get enough borrows to, kind of get up there in the sales rankings on Amazon. You can definitely do well with the new Kindle Unlimited as it is now.
Yeah, it's crazy. So you said all of your pen name books are in Select still, or again?
Again, yeah. They started out there, then I moved them out just because it seemed like the thing to do to try to get a bigger audience. And then when they changed I always wrote novels. So, like the short story thing, it used to, under the old system, KU1, it kind of rewarded people who wrote short fiction because they got the same amount of money as somebody who wrote a long novel. But as people probably already know, you get paid per page reads. So if you're writing 500-page novels or even 300-page ones, you can actually end up making more on the book than if you'd sold it at like $4 or $5. Some people with big novels are making like $5 or $6 on a borrow right now. Of course, we'll see if Amazon continues to pay that much per borrow. It already went down a little bit in August from July, but yeah, I tried a serial with the pen name, and it was like a 6-part serial that I published one every week, and then I put the full thing out in one ebook after it was published, and did pretty good. It hung out in the top 20 of its little niche subgenre thing for a while, and yeah, it actually made quite good money. I was like, maybe I should write some more serials. Because it gave me an opportunity, like with a novel, it's sort of one shot. You put it out, and that's all you can do as far as publicizing it. You can try to get some ads maybe and some reviews, but by having something coming out every week like that, I was able to sort of, just kind of naturally get some momentum going, and you'd appear in the new releases maybe for each episode. And then, and then I had like the first one in the series that I could drop to free. Because each installment I made 99 cents, but it was also in KU. I figured most people would just read it through Kindle Unlimited or wait until the complete thing was ready. I think I made that $4.95. And so, you can always make the first episode free as kind of a loss leader. It's sort of like making your own mini series but you only have one story. So I found it interesting, and I would probably do it again. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting too because I don't know. People are always saying this about everything though, so it's kind of hard to tell. But I know, like just a couple months ago, people were talking about maybe it was because of this Amazon change that serials are dead again, right? So, so how long ago was that you put those out? or making it?
Yeah, it was in August in the beginning of September. I actually wrote it thinking, like in May, I started it. I was like, I am going to take advantage of this Kindle Unlimited thing and write serials and get like get paid 6 times basically for one long story, because that was what other people were doing. And I was like, oh, there's no reason I can't take advantage of this too. And so as I'm editing it, in mid-June, the announcement comes out from Amazon, oh, we're changing it. So it's going to be Kindle Unlimited 2.0 is by page reads and no longer by episodes or short stories or anything like that. So I thought about just turning it into a novel at that point, but I'd actually kind of set it up to be 6 parts with that kind of cliffhanger and almost like a episodic TV show. So I was like, well, I'll just try it still as a serial. You never know, because I figure serials, you're kind of designing them to be page turners anyway, like with the cliffhangers in the middle and, trying to keep it exciting, lots of action. And, it worked out great. Yeah, in like September, the pen name made like $10,000 just from borrows. So that's not small change for me, guys. So I would definitely do it again.
Yeah, it's awesome to hear because, like I said, I've seen tons of things where people are saying, oh, serials are dead because of this. Of course, there's always that. No matter what they change, there's always people that are, saying that the sky is falling and stuff. So, so with your pen name, I know we were talking about it a little bit before we stopped with the show. How many of the full-length novels do you have out now on that?
I have got, let's see, 5 novels in one series. And then this serial was kind of tied in, but I wanted it to be like no relation to the other characters, just set in the same universe. So people, maybe I could get more readers. And I think I did. I think I got a lot of newer readers that had never read the other stuff. And then I wrote one just standalone time travel dystopian fiction. I don't recommend it. If you write time travel novels, apparently you need Highlanders and kilts. And that's what's sexy and hot. Not dystopian novels where everyone's been like died in a nuclear holocaust and the world fell apart. Apparently that's depressing or something. I don't know. But so I guess there's 6 novels in the serial out right now. And, they definitely, that was definitely the best month I've had with the pen name. So it's hard to keep the momentum going, especially when you're not publishing as often as like with my regular name. I'm pretty regular. Every 2-3 months I have a new novel out, and that helps. But we'll see. Just the bigger the backlist you can grow, you can always promote the old stuff. So I've been having fun with it. I think it's not as easy to get advertisements for. This is science fiction romance. It's not really a category on any of the sites like BookBub or the places that get people to sign up by genre.
Right.
So, and it's kind of a challenge because I think I talked about this before, that science fiction people don't necessarily want romance. Some of them do, but not necessarily all of them. And romance people will not read science fiction unless they just happen to grow up watching Star Trek and love that stuff too. So it's like a really small little piece of the, like a Venn diagram where you got that little teeny piece in the middle. Those are your audience. So, but unfortunately, Amazon does have a category specifically for it now. A couple years ago, they didn't. And so if you can sell enough books to get in the top 20 there, or even the top 100, it helps people find you. So, but yeah, it makes me feel for people who write something really obscure. Like we had someone on our other podcast. It was like, yeah, she writes a fantasy with whatever you call it, anthropomorph. I can't say it. Animal characters as people. Right. And I'm like, yeah, I guess you'd have to just put that under swords and sorcery or epic fantasy or something, but it's probably not really those things. I remember reading Brian Jacques as a kid, and he wrote those.
Oh, yeah.
Animals, hedgehogs, and rabbits and things having adventures.
Yeah, the red wall thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah, yep. I've read some of those. So. No, it's interesting, though, about that because there's a lot of people that I've read of, and even Libby, who was on the show before, our most popular episode, actually. She started in a small genre, ancient Egyptian historical fiction, and it's pretty incredible what you can do if you like dominate one of those small niches. Like you think there's not enough readers to sustain or get a lot of income out of it, but if you most of the time those places have all the readers that are there like hungry for new stuff because there's not much stuff coming in. So
Yeah, I would say that you're golden if there's an Amazon category. If there's not, it's hard for them to find you. It's a whole visibility problem. I write with my regular name. I do the steampunk stuff, and I have like slots 2 through 6 or something right now. Just because there's not much competition in that category, it's a pretty small little niche. But you also don't get a lot of people reading in it, necessarily browsing it. But if you can kind of like belong in that niche, but have broad enough appeal to also be like, I have my stuff in swords and sorcery. I think I have one in romance fantasy, some in epic fantasy. That series has done pretty well, and it's not just because it's in the steampunk charts. Like if it was only steampunk, it probably wouldn't be that high in the steampunk charts, because I see other stuff kind of struggling to sell well in that category because it's really small. It's a really small little, like if you're in the top 20,000 in the store, you're in the top 20 of steampunk. But so yeah, if you can like be in one small niche but also have a wider kind of crossover appeal, and I wonder with Libby if that's the case, because I think a lot of people like historical fiction, and they might not have known they liked Egyptian fiction, but
Right.
why not? Who doesn't love pharaohs and pyramids? It's fun times.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Um, so before we get too far into that, because I know that we're wanting to take a little bit of a different direction, talk about some other stuff aside from just publishing, but it's been so long since we talked any of this stuff together that we have so much to learn. But um, anyway, so in the last few months, you've been mainly concentrating on that and then continuing your normal publishing schedule with your non-pen name, your real name. Uh, and you made that public. Um, I know you made it public to other authors and stuff reading your blog, so that also made it public to your other readers, right? Do you have any like cross pollination between those two, or are they so different that you don't get any?
I do. I know I have a lot of my fantasy readers that kind of like the romance stuff too. So I've definitely got, if you look in the also bots, in the beginning I didn't tell anybody about it and it was very pure, but now you'll see like, oh, look, there's steampunk and science fiction romance and the also bots kind of messing things up. And I actually feel bad because I have one friend that writes YA fantasy, and she just did like a YA contemporary non-fantasy book, like a love story. And there's like my science fiction romance smutty little cover with a, he's not that naked, but I feel bad because it's in our also buts because we have some of the same fans since we kind of plug each other to our readers. But so I've heard some authors say they don't get any crossover. I feel lucky that some of my readers do seem to like my style enough to try other things. And I will say that like the space-based adventure fantasy or science fiction is probably pretty similar actually to epic fantasy. It's secondary world. I actually think it's harder to go from like epic fantasy to contemporary urban fantasy. It's like you either read Earth-based stuff or you either read secondary world stuff or you don't. You stay on Earth. And I don't know, all the people out here that just do romance and mysteries are like, what are you talking about? But
No, it's true, and even like I've noticed for us, even writing in the same genre, but you write in a different universe or whatever, that it's hard sometimes to even get read people to read the new stuff. They want more books from the old ones, so it's kind of interesting that you are seeing some go over. So, um,
hey, you guys have published a couple more this year. Is it Are you still like you have that one? I saw you have that one box set that's been perma-free. It's still like 150 in the free store. I'm jealous because we tried to put together a perma-free epic fantasy set and it didn't do nearly as well. So, are you still getting a lot of a boost from that?
we are, and I'm actually surprised it's still doing so well. Also, it's been 1 year actually. Last October is when all that culminated, and I published that box set along with the other authors, and it's pretty much been in like the top 200, 250 of the free store the entire year, and most of that in the top 100. And part of that is we have I don't know if she wants me to share her name on here, so I won't this time. But one of the authors in the group has a list of promotion sites and how well they do and things like that. And she staggers them every month for us, and we all chip in towards that. And so even the ones that are usually more expensive for less downloads, we're able to do it easier because it's only like $6 or $7 or per author, or $11 for the month per author. So it works out really well, and we have those boosts like every month it seems. So We just had promotion not long ago, and boosted it back up to like 54 or something in the store again. So as far as sell through, we still see a bit of it. But what's really crazy is the sell through for the first novel in it, like trumps everything else. I have tracking links on all of the, read the next one of this author's books. And I think a lot of people, when they finish the first one, they go to her book and then they completely forget about the rest of the set. So like she has something like 10 times more clicks than like the second book in the set. And then by the time you get towards the end, you're looking at, maybe like 15 or 20% of the clicks or something. So if you're ever in a great big box set, hope you roll the dice right and get in the front. So.
Yeah, well, we had the same experience with the epic fantasy one we put together. Even though it hasn't been, as huge in the rankings, we've definitely had authors say, I've gotten some sell through to my book too. And the person who's first, if you you can just tell by looking at the also bots. It's his books, and then I'm second, so is some of my books. And then I think the fourth person in the set has got some of the also bots, and like the other authors are not anywhere in the also bots, like 5 through 8. So I feel bad. We put it together ourselves, like, we're going to be in the front, dang it. But yeah, so you want to think about that if somebody invites you to a box set, like don't get into this situation where you're in there with like 20 other authors. We've got 8 in ours, and I still don't think that, I feel like the first 4 are getting pretty rewarded and getting some sell through to the rest of their series. But it seemed like the 5th through 8th ones are maybe not. Like you're saying, the people click on the link and go check out the rest of that author series instead of, I mean, some of it, maybe some of the books in the thing are just more appealing also, or more likely to get the people to want to read on. But, it's hard to say how much is just placement.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is placement, though. I mean, we have in the front of the book like a blurb for everyone in there, and kind of like a snippet of what's included in that one. Like this story is going to have these type of paranormal creatures in it. And even so, it seems like most readers out of thousands still read the first book first. They still go in chronological order. And it just seems like tons of them are clicking her book in the front. So another thing I've noticed about it too is that we get a ton of reviews for that book. I mean, we have 600 reviews, and we haven't tried to get any reviews anywhere. We haven't asked for them or anything. It's just that we have so many downloads, we get so many reviews. But I will say, I think I mentioned this months ago when we talked about it. The reviews that it gets on places like Google and things like that, we have so many 1 stars that say, I need to enter a credit card. This is a scam. So still say if you're going perma-free on Google, to make sure you put that disclaimer. But even then, people skip it. So.
Yeah, it's hard to win, but at least when it's just some perma-free box set, it's not, ours has a pretty low average too. I just checked, it's like 4.1. It has 85 reviews. Some people, it's got actually gone up. When we first launched it, we did not, this was a mistake, and other people, I will say it so other people don't make it. None of us really lobbied for reviews because we were publishing something that had been out. All of it was like, we had like a perma-freeze that had been out for 4 or 5 years, and we were just kind of trying to get some love in the rankings, get up there a little bit through a dragon on the front, try to make it like, oh, dragons are cool, go check it out. And so, we just threw it together and put it out there. We didn't go to our list and like beg for reviews. And so some of the early reviews were this kind you get that are like, oh, I thought this was all by one author in one series. Instead, it's a scam to make you try to buy all these other books in their series. And even though all of our novels, they're like full-length novels and complete stories in most cases, there might be 1 or 2 cliffhangers, but yeah, people get bitter over the free stuff. You'd almost get better reviewers on like a $10 ebook. I don't know what's up with that, but
yeah, we have tons of those too. I think I've talked about that before. Is there are a lot of people that this is just a marketing scam, or what? It's free. I don't know how it can be a scam anyway, but I think the like shortest book in there is like 70,000 words, right? And there's actually 14 books in there, and all that are 70,000. I think the average is probably like 80,000, and there's still people that complain. And I mean, they're all first in series, but none of them are like stop right in the action so that you don't get to know what's happening. But yeah, anyway, if you make a box set, be prepared for those reviews. You're going to get a lot of them. And I really don't know how ours has gotten so many reviews in 1 year. But I'll say tons of them are like that. So be prepared for that. And like Lindsay and I were saying, if you can, make sure you're towards the front. You may not see any sell through. So
Yeah, it's like it helps if you're the one to put together the box set. You might not want to put yourself first, so you don't want people to raise eyebrows, but maybe second would be good. You can still get some, get some loving.
Yeah, we're second in ours, and that was coincidental. The other authors actually said that I should put our book in the front because I organized it originally and formatted it and all of that. I just didn't feel good doing that, so we rolled a virtual online dice, and we happened to get second. But no, the first in the set, which we've had a previous episode with, is Christine Pope, and I know that it helped her go up initially a lot with the sell through and stuff. And I haven't talked to her in a while, but I know that she's still doing fairly well based on the rankings. So anyway, though, enough on the box set. I guess we should probably get to our other topic since we started a little late, but
just a half hour late or so.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Due to internet issues.
When I looked at the clock and saw it was 8:50, I was like, wait, have we been doing this 15 minutes? But no. So first off, I wanted to talk a little bit on why the show hasn't been around for a couple months, why things didn't line up. So people that watched or listened to the show previously know that I had to leave early on an episode because of something that happened. My wife's father ended up passing away, and that happened. It's never a good time, of course, but it also happened right when she and I were planning to move and stuff. So just a lot of things came together, and I wasn't able to do much for a while. And then we moved and had a bunch of trouble finding a place and all this. So that's one reason we haven't been doing the show in a while. But to kind of segue on that, the main reason I wanted to talk about that was that, like we were joking about Lindsay being on vacation for 3 months. She was still writing and stuff during it. But we weren't able to write or put out very much during that time. And it's kind of scary a little bit, I guess, that you get really comfortable at an amount that you're making on Amazon or in books in general. But then if you stop putting things out for a long time, especially like an abnormally long time for your brand, how quickly the money and sales can go down. And we've always put things out faster than we have this year. So it was kind of scary a little bit to see. So have you ever experienced that too, Lindsay, where you go a lot longer without a release, and it's kind of scary how fast things tend to slide in rankings and income?
I haven't really had anything come up that's kept me from continuing to publish. The first year I wasn't as prolific. I was still working the day job. But yeah, no, I've definitely seen that. And I've seen it where, my stuff will drop. That's why I'm always kind of watching, listening to the podcast, watching the marketing, what are people doing? And UCU is frozen. You're not frozen to me, Adam.
Okay.
But yeah, it does. And it's very much, I think, who is it? Just had a blog post on this. I'm blanking on his name. He's been on some of the posts. I'll remember it later, but he was saying, even if you're successful, you're just making a job for yourself. It's not like you can ever stop writing and publishing. And I feel like maybe if you're a big traditionally published author, it's maybe a little different. You've got if you've had a series going for 10 years and have had a book out every year, it's probably not going to disappear quite as quickly. I've definitely seen indie authors that had a really big hit, and then maybe you look back, you're like, wonder whatever happened to that person. And a couple of years later, their sales ranking is in the 800,000s for the book that was once a New York Times bestseller or something like that. You definitely have to keep writing and publishing. In my case, I'm definitely, I've had a pretty good year. I'm trying to put money aside. I want to start getting some rental properties. I see this very much as a means to an end rather than I want to always depend on my self-publishing income. Because I feel like this is really the golden age, right? You have a lot of opportunities now, but who knows 5 years down the line if it'll still be as lucrative or potentially lucrative. And I know when I got started, Amazon was already at 70%, but I've heard that a couple years earlier, when Amazon first opened the Kindle store, that it was 35%. So I tried to keep that in the back of my mind that, there's really nothing that would keep them from just slashing what they pay us at some point in the future, or, some other thing could happen. So I try to be, not crazy with the money when it's a good month, and just trying to put some away. And so, but yeah, it's I think when you're first trying to decide, should I go full time, maybe you're making like 3, 4, or 5,000 a month, but it's hard until you've had that income for a few years to really believe it's going to be forever. Yeah, so it is definitely scary to not have another source of income. And I know you guys do the formatting and that stuff too. So I think that's a good idea to have something else. And some people do nonfiction. They'll talk about writing or self-publishing. And, it's just another stream of income, even if it's ebooks or, and you can always do consulting and stuff like that too. But I think it's definitely scary as far as taking the leap to quit the day job. I was self-published, or not self-published, self-employed anyway. So for me, it wasn't quite such a big jump. I didn't instantly lose all my income overnight from the day job. So, but yeah, it's, I think the temptation to maybe do it sooner than you should is possibly there for a lot of people, especially if they hate their day job. But yeah, it's definitely, you need to be able to keep putting stuff out there, and you probably need a couple series, and that you have fans that are just dying for the next one. And at that point, maybe you can feel a little safer. I don't know. Is that kind of, what do you think? Is that what you've been?
Yeah, and so when I was trying to think of what I was going to talk about on the show a little bit, started thinking about what happened to make us not be able to keep doing the show earlier in the year, and that led me to think about those months that we didn't put anything out. Last year was our best year, and it'll probably be better than this year in income wise. And we were putting a book out about every 45 days, and this year we've only released 2 books and a novella, so a big difference. And like you said, you can really see it in income if you don't have that steady stream. Like unless you're a household name, an author, you're probably not going to get the same income as your releases peak always if you don't put new stuff out. So that was a little bit of a eye opener. I never really thought about it before. It's easy to get like comfortable, I would say. And mid-September marked 1 year since I quit the corporate job to do, writing and then other author services full time. And it's been a little bit eye opening that we need to now that we're moved and settled, and things are getting a little bit better, we need to get back to that. So yeah, if anyone's thinking about quitting their day job, if they're making enough now to quit, just know that for one, we've had people on the show that said this before, you're probably not going to write more than you did while you were working. Like you're probably not going to go and start writing 8 hours a day. And if you get like relaxed after you quit your job and get too comfortable and start putting out things less and less, you may end up in that situation where all your stuff is in the 800K range and you have to go find a new job. So a little bit scary. We didn't get anywhere close to that point, but I could definitely see the trend and see that if we just stopped putting things out right now, eventually, that would probably flatten out to a very low income. So
Yeah, the name I was trying to remember earlier was Russell Blake. And he was the one that just did a blog post. And I think he kind of had like a really good couple of years too, like a couple of series that really sold really well. And he's still selling well. But, I looked at some of his more recent stuff, and maybe like his new series is not selling as well as he would have hoped. I mean, I don't know him at all. I'm just kind of guessing because his blog post had kind of a downer tone. So that was just me kind of maybe reading between the lines, and it could or not be true. And I think that's another thing too, is like you assume, well, I had this series that just kicked butt and everybody loved it, and I'm going to start a new one and everybody's going to love that too. And, maybe, but, I think one series sometimes takes off and you get readers outside of like your normal people that follow you. So I think for me this year, my Dragon Blood series kind of took off based on having the first 3 books in a 99-cent box set. and that box set kind of sticking on Amazon for quite a while. So I'm trying not to, like say, oh, I'm sure that everything's going to be that awesome. And I know the income started to drop already a little bit. It's still nothing to sneeze at, but I'm not assuming anything. I'm going to try to plan going ahead to do some of the similar things that worked well and probably help that one take off. But yeah, I've seen that too with a lot of authors and myself too. It's like another series you never know. Your next series could be the one that really takes off, but it could also not be as big of a hit as you're hoping. And so, and it's hard too, because even a series that's a winner, like after a few books, after 6, 7 books, it may not do quite as well either. You get some attrition, and I think Amazon is maybe not as good as we all would like at letting people know the next book is out in the series. And, it's great if you get people on your mailing list, but that tends to be really only the dedicated people that are like going to love you enough to sign up for your mailing list. I figure, for every 1,000 people on my mailing list, there's like 5,000 people that read some of my books when they happen to notice there's one out, but don't religiously follow me as an author, which makes sense. I'm the same way with a lot of authors too. There's a couple I follow pretty carefully, and I always know when they have a new release, but then there's other ones where like I usually like their books, so if I see a new one I'll grab it, but I'm maybe not stalking them on Twitter and like always going to grab everything they do. So it's not an easy business for sure. It's that's why I'm like, just try to squirrel away some money whenever you have a good month, and hopefully that will see you through.
Yeah, so definitely true. And I didn't want to be like, I know that blog post you're talking about, and there were lots of people were like, oh, why are you so depressed? Russell, why are you so down? But no, I'm not trying to be, I think like he was trying to be, a realist. He was trying to be realistic about all of this, and not to try to get anyone down that's watching, that's hopeful to do this. Just, realistically putting it out there that if you do get to the point where you're doing this for a living or want to, you probably need to make like a release schedule and pretty closely stick to it. And to Lindsay's point about a series doing well, definitely don't know which series is going to do well, which one isn't. But I would say that if you have a series that is going well, that you stick around that as much as you can, as much as it'll keep selling. That was one mistake we made early on. So a couple of years ago, when we finished the first series that sold really well, of 4 books, we had an idea for kind of a spinoff of it anyway. But we were like, okay, let's write a different series first. And we got 2 books into it, and it was getting like, a sell or 2 a day per book in that. And we're like, maybe that wasn't such a good idea. And we had all these people asking for, oh, you should write a book 5 of the other one instead of this stuff. So we actually ended up listening to them and writing a spinoff series. And then we're writing a spinoff series of that series. It's all in the same world. So in the same world now we have like 11 books and a novella, which they're not all from the same person's point of view, but they're all in the same universe, all chronological, have cameos, so to speak. So I think if you can do that with a series that's doing well, that's a really good idea, especially if the spinoff series can be read as a standalone, because you get, retention from your old readers that want to know what's happening to maybe some side characters from the old stuff. But then you can also appeal to new readers without them having to go back through the whole catalog, or you can maybe get some promotions for the new series that relates. And then if they read that, they'll go back. So that's one thing I've kind of noticed this year too, that I wish we would have done sooner. And it may have kept our first series higher in the rankings for longer, instead of letting it die off a little bit and then trying to rekindle it. Because that's another thing I noticed is rekindling sells seems to be a lot harder than retaining in the beginning, like a rank. So if you keep, for instance, the box set, as you were mentioning that we did the free one, has been up in the free store really high for almost a year. And that's because we've never taken focus off of it. The lady in our group who promotes it, or signs it up for promotions every month, is keeping it up there. Whereas if we let it fall off to the, I'm not sure what's a really bad ranking for free store, maybe like 15,000 in the free store or something like that, it'd probably be a lot harder to get it back up and stay there. Because again, we talked about on a previous show, I'm referencing all these shows to make my life hard when I have to do the notes. But in a previous show, we talked about how Amazon likes steady sells, it seems, for rankings. And if you get like a bunch of downloads or sells in a short amount of time and that flatlines again, your ranking will fall pretty hard. So I think all that kind of relates. But yeah, if you have a series that's doing well, milk it for all it's worth, sort of thing. And but prepare that if you stop doing that, that maybe people won't go on to read your other stuff. So
Yeah, and I'm actually going to maybe explore Patreon as something else. We just had a guest on my other show that she's, I think she's doing like a couple $100s a month on it, but I've seen some authors doing a couple thousand a month on it, just as another source of income. Like, I feel like I don't necessarily need the money now, but it would be great to not rely on Amazon so much. And that'd be a way to, I've heard from people who are doing it that it's kind of almost a community builder, because here you have these fans that are just so into your stuff enough that they're willing to give you $1 or $2 every month or whatever they sign up for. And it's a way to kind of connect with your core readers. I was, actually thinking too of trying short stories or something that I don't bother with on Amazon and the other stores, because they're just not really worth it once you get 35 cents per sale basically. And even with 99 cents seems too high if it's just like a 4,000 or 5,000 word short story. So I'm kind of intrigued by Patreon. I don't know if I'm going to do anything with it yet, but I'm thinking about it as another income source. And I love the idea of having these, like the recurring income. It's a monthly thing where people agree to pay either $1, it could be $5, it could be $10, whatever your fans are willing to pay that much each month. So you can kind of count on that income. And I've heard from people that do it that it doesn't tend to fluctuate that much each month. So I've seen visual arts people, really, some of them killing it on there. There's like a comic book lady that makes like $40,000 per every 2 weeks. I think she puts something out.
yeah.
And she's teaching too. So that's a big thing. If you can teach people how to do something, they'll pay you for sure. But I've seen, like I said, there's a couple authors out there making a couple extra thousand a month. And that's a not insignificant income, especially if you're like traditionally published and you're only getting a check every 6 months and you don't know how much it's going to be till it comes. That's an even harder world. At least with self-publishing, how much you're getting, and it like 2 months ahead of time because of the delay. That helps me feel a little more secure too. At least I know what I'm getting in the end of November. But so yeah, I think it's a good idea to look for other things too. And like with your perma-free box set, I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, perma-free's dead. It's not working anymore." But I have my perma-frees of my book ones, and I have my Podio books out there for free. I have my first 3 Emperor's Edge books that I published those in like 2011 on Podio books, and I don't do anything with them now. I don't even think about them or look at them. And I still get emails from people that are like, "Oh, I really love these. Are you going to do the rest of the series?" And I'm not, because I lost my narrator and because they're expensive, but they end up buying the ebooks. And so it's sort of like, it's great. The more things you have out there that people can find you, especially if you have some free stuff out there, that it can help maybe the dips not be quite so great. Like my Emperor's Edge series, I've been done with that now for a couple of years. And I continue to do things to try to get the book 1 out there and sell it. And, this year I did the box set of 3 of those, 2 for 99 cents, and advertise that, which can make a lot of sense if you've got an 8-book series. You're not really losing too much money there. And so it was a great year based on that. But just think the more things you have out there, like with the permafreeze, and if you keep advertising the permafreeze a little bit, it does help you keep from just totally falling off the radar. I feel like if you're just relying on the Amazon algorithms, that they can love you for a little while, but then if the sales eventually drop off, like you were saying, if you don't give them any loving, then you're nowhere. Like I said, I've seen those New York Times bestsellers that are now 1 million sales rankings. So I don't even know how many books that is a month. If it's even 1 book a month, I'm not sure. But no, and I think it's good to point these things out too. I don't think it's depressing, and I think Russell Blake totally, I hear everything, I understand. I think it's a really good thing that he's talking about that you're making a job for yourself, and you can't necessarily just stop and kick back and ride the waves. So I think it's good to talk about.
Yeah, true for sure. And like I said, I hadn't really thought about that much until we had a really long time between books for the first time. said, hang on one sec. I said, sure. What
You were chatting to each other on the side.
Yeah, I was chatting to her and asked her like a multiple choice question, and she said, sure. So,
Oh.
No, what we were talking about in the chat was that we had originally planned to come on tonight and talk a little bit more about craft than what we usually do. But since we had gone for so long, I guess we had a lot to say about publishing itself anyway, which is fine. I think a lot of people listening like that portion more anyway. So we'll get into some more craft stuff, but probably on the next episode, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But anyway, to go back to what we were just talking about making like multiple streams of income. So I definitely never know when things are going to fall out. Like I said, Amazon can go back to 35%, or I don't think they will, but you never know. I mean, you just don't. They could go to 10%. You just never know. So one thing that I've done, the company is almost 2 years old now, is the author services company that I do, which has actually grown quite a bit. I actually spend more time on that than I do writing, unfortunately now, or fortunately, I guess, depending on which way you look at it. But I'd say, so if you have like a skill that you've either learned from writing or self-publishing, see how maybe you can make money off that, helping people, or just in general. They what is it? They said that like during the gold rush, it wasn't all the people going out looking for gold that got rich. It was the people that were selling shovels and things to those people. So I learned how to format books because I didn't want to pay anyone in the beginning. So I learned how to format our own books and got better at it and faster at it. And I was like, this doesn't take me too very long. Why don't I put it out there and see if anyone else wants to save some time and have me publish or format their book? And there was. So I experimented with that a little bit and expanded that. So, we do beta reads now, formats, and we just started doing author websites. I made our own websites and the website for the writing podcast and stuff. I learned how to do all that. I already knew some of it, but I learned how to make better sites, I guess you would say. Researched all that. I was like, hey, there's someone else out there that needs a better site. So I put that out there and saw if people would like it. And, we've sold 5 or 6 sites in the last month or so. So if you're looking for another stream of income to supplement your writing, maybe you just went full-time or plan on it, I'd say look at like what your strengths are that you've learned from self-publishing and see what you can make off that. So.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And I see that too. It's like maybe you could even go full-time sooner than you necessarily felt you could if you're just relying totally on your fiction sales. I assume most people listening are fiction authors, but you never know. Nonfiction always seems easier to me as somebody who actually came from that field. I used to blog about home improvement and stuff that actually was profitable that could make money. And I feel like it's like easier you blog about the nonfiction, you publish books about the nonfiction, then you make courses about it. It's like an easier, it's not easy to make money, but it's a more obvious path. With fiction, it can be a little more challenging to kind of get that early visibility and get out there. But if you're doing something else on the side, then it can definitely make a lot of sense. And you never know when you're blogging about your author services who might go ahead and check out your books at the same time too. I should say too, in this theme of diversifying income, that I've started making some money from audiobooks this year for the first time, really, since before I did the audiobooks as a free lead generation kind of thing. And this year I'm doing ACX. I had one lady do my Rust and Relics, the first book in that series. And it was interesting. It sold pretty well, even though it wasn't selling that great on Amazon at the time. That's sort of my series that I got distracted. I kind of go with what's selling the best, and that wasn't selling the best. So I'm going to figure out a way to finish it off in the next year or so. But I decided, what the heck, I'll do the audiobooks just as an experiment. And the first one has done pretty well. I ended up hiring somebody that charges quite a bit. It's her and her production engineer guy. They did a really good job. I didn't have to do the production aspect myself at all, so that was nice. But I think in a few more months it will have paid for itself, and then everything after that is, gravy, and you get boosts with the audiobooks whenever, like if you do a BookBub ad for that book, for the ebooks, you're going to get a boost on audiobooks too. And you can actually make pretty good money even, gosh, I want to say I sold like, I don't know, I think when I sold the first couple months, I sold 600 copies or something and made $800. I guess it's not that great, but that's only for one book in addition to all my other revenue streams. So I think it's worth doing. And I'm hoping once I have more of my books out there in audio form that it'll feed off each other and can continue to sell after I've, paid for the production costs. I also was lucky enough to have my Dragon Blood series picked up by Podium Publishing this year. So they're doing those and I pay nothing for that. So that's really nice. And they did the first 3 as an omnibus. So it was like a really good deal for anybody who's an Audible subscriber. They got 3 full-length novels for 1 credit. And I've only seen 2 days worth of earnings on that so far. I got paid for it was the end of the quarter, June. I think it launched on June 29th or June 30th, and that happened to be the end of the quarter. So I've only gotten paid for that 1 or 2 days so far. Obviously, it won't be as much as when I'm doing it myself, but I didn't have to pay for 30 hours of audio to be recorded either. And that's something, it's maybe hard to approach an audiobook publisher, but if you're starting to sell well as an indie, I feel like you might get approached now. It seems like I think they're looking more for some indie authors that they want to support. My pen name, actually, Tantor Media, I signed with them for an audiobook, and it just came out of nowhere. It wasn't like a huge seller or anything like that. I think it was just somebody who's on the team there happened to read the book and like it. So no promises, but I feel like audiobooks is still a thing that's maybe coming on stronger. So if you've been thinking about trying that and haven't yet, maybe look at ACX. And you don't have to necessarily spend money. You can still do the royalty share thing. It just happened to be, I was open to go either way. And it happened to be this person. She was really good. She had some good books under her belt already. So she wanted to just be paid up front, and that was fine. But you can still find people that are just still willing to do the royalty split. So definitely look at audiobooks. And if you haven't done your paperbacks yet, that can be something to look into. I don't make a lot from paperbacks. It's usually like a couple hundred extra a month. But there's something to sign and do giveaways with. I think over on Goodreads, you have to have a paperback to do a giveaway. You can't just do it with an ebook. And I've heard from people that have, put their book up there for a giveaway and gotten a lot of people interested in it. So that's useful. And, even a couple hundred extra a month if you're not, it's money that just comes to you. You're not having to do anything else to get it. There's nothing shabby about that. And, we got the holidays coming up, and I find that the paperbacks do really well. And probably about now, October, November, people start wanting to pick those up as gifts to other people. I don't think ebooks make great gifts. So at Christmas, you'll probably find that if you have some paperbacks, you'll get a few more sales. That's probably all of my income streams right now. So, but definitely the more things you have out there, it's nice to get these little checks from random places that you weren't even really expecting or paying attention to.
Yeah, for sure. And, I've always been pretty entrepreneurial and, business oriented, reading that kind of stuff. And one of the things that lots of successful people or rich people will tell you is that they usually have a lot more income streams than most. So most people have one income stream, sometimes 2. And most of the really wealthy people have 7 to 10 income streams or different ways to get money. That way, if, there's going to be ups and downs with each of them. And like we were talking about Amazon, if it drops, if you have all those other things, sometimes those ones will help keep you afloat or even make the difference. So it's also why it's kind of hard sometimes to make the decision like you did to go all in with Select on your pen name. I mean, you have another name that you're not, so it's a little bit not as scary, I guess, for you, but definitely have to consider all those things and what could happen. So and we haven't done audiobooks yet. That's something I was looking into also, and a lot of people were saying that it's not worth it anymore, I think, and it may have almost been a year now that they reduced the royalties on it, and the royalties no longer scale. I think used to, based on your sales, you could eventually get to 90% royalties or something. and they don't do that anymore. So, but like you said, if it ever pays out, excuse me, if it ever pays for itself, it's still worth it. So I may look into that. And paperbacks is another one. I've noticed that the formatting business is kind of taken off a bit, and beta reads are actually close. I think we've done like 200 and something formats in the last year or so. And one thing I've noticed is a lot of people don't get paperbacks. They'll get all the digital ones and not paperback. And because they say they never sell. But like you said, on our paperbacks, it's a couple $100s a month. And, that adds up, especially as your catalog grows. We actually have a couple that I never did paperbacks for just because when we were putting them out 45 days apart and things like that, and we're kind of rushing, that was one of the things I skimped on and actually did one of those today. But yeah, there's no reason not to on those, I think, especially if you're paying me to do the formatting, right? So give me that extra $10 to do the paperback. But it's speaking of diversifying not only your income like aside from your book, but like you said, with your individual books, making sure you have different streams of income coming off your books. On that same thing, I've been thinking about translation still also. Have you done any of that yet, Lindsay, or looked into it?
I've looked into it. I've listened to podcasts with other people who have done it, and they talked about it. Actually, I went to the RWA conference this summer in July, and there were a couple panels on it. The consensus seemed to be that it's quite expensive, like in the $8,000 to $10,000 range for a novel. So I actually signed with a German publisher. Somebody already translated, a fan actually translated my first Emperor's Edge book. And then she did the work and legwork and found the publisher over there. And I found out at that conference that that's actually not that uncommon, that you might get approached by somebody who's a fan of your work, but also happens to be a translator, and that they can maybe get you in with someone in that country where they live, and that can be harder than you just kind of trying to get in with a slush pile. But yeah, I'm kind of interested in it, but I'm more interested, honestly, in selling my rights than I am in paying for the translations. I think Joanna Penn on the Creative Pen has talked about it a little bit, where she did a couple with, I want to say she did royalty splits, so it wasn't a big upfront cost. But it's tough because you can't proofread it. So not only do you have to get the translation, but then you have to get an editor in that country, because they've made a whole new piece of art. So they still need an editor. And then you probably need some people to proofread it. And then you don't necessarily have a way to get it into the markets in a lot of the countries. You can put it on Amazon, and there's a German Amazon, and maybe people will buy it through that. But and I think Draft Digital can get you in Tolino, I think is the name of another big German ebook site. But in a lot of the other countries, you really have no way to market it. You don't know how to sell it. So I'm interested in it. Like I said, I'm more interested in just selling the foreign rights for a series than and I've heard there are some agents that maybe you could talk to once you've kind of reached a certain degree of, you have some good reviews, you've got proof of sales and stuff in the US, that they might be more interested in it. Yeah, I haven't actively pursued an agent to do that yet. And maybe if I start going to more conferences and that kind of thing, I'll talk to someone. I'm very much just kind of laid back with this right now. It hasn't been a huge priority, but it's something I'd be very open to. So, but yeah, as far as financing the actual paying for the books, I've heard of some romance authors that sell really well, that it makes sense for them in some languages. Apparently, I don't have my notes with me here from that conference, but I want to say like Germany is often a really good one that can make sense. And actually, I want to say they were like Portuguese. They said Brazil was a pretty good market to look into, but that like Spanish could be hard because there's so many. You've got like, what is it, Castilian Spanish over in Spain, and then you've got a different version of Spanish in Latin America. So it's not like you can just use the same translation for all those countries necessarily. So yeah, it's something to consider, but like I said, I would probably just try to sell the rights, and that could be worth a while if you've got a whole series of like 7 or 8 books and you want to do that. It's not necessarily going to be a lot of money, but it could be a little bit of money in each country that's interested. So I don't know what you're thinking, but yep, maybe something to look into.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it too, because I was just thinking our our main series, we've been done with the last book. We have the spin-off series for that same universe, but the last book in that actual first series, it came out, I want to say like 2.5, 3 years ago. And I was thinking, what if it had been translated in all of those, even if it was a royalty split that whole time, that would just be, 2 or 3 years of income, even if it was, $10, $20 a month per book, even would just add up more money. And I know that there's this place out there. I'm not sure if it's, like I said, during all this stuff, the moving and everything else, I haven't really been keeping as up to date on everything as I used to, like podcasts and Joanna's site and podcast. But I know there's a really popular site now. I'm not sure how long they've been in business, but Babelcube, I think. And you can go on there and submit your books. And it's kind of like ACX. You'll get approached by translators from different countries, and you work out like a royalty split somehow, like where the Babelcube people get a certain percent and you get a certain percent, and the translator gets a certain percent, which, can be I guess it could be a good incentive for them to do well, that they're getting an actual percent. Although it could be just a numbers game too. They could try to do like 100 translations to see if they can get. So I wasn't sure if you had, looked into that, or if you'd heard of that site or anything like that.
I have heard of that site, and that actually came up at the conference this summer. Mark Lefebvre from Kobo and Dan Wood from Drafted Digital kind of both talked about translations and just selling even English copies of books in other countries. And somebody asked them about that site, and they were just kind of saying that maybe the quality is not quite there yet. The quality control, it can be hard to, like, I guess anybody can throw out their plaque and say, oh, I translate in Italian and French and German, and it's kind of hard. Yeah, it's kind of hard, I guess, right now to know, to like find the people that are really good. So it may be something to watch. I'm not sure. You'll have to try it and let us all know how it goes.
Yeah, right. Let me sign over rights to some random person that used Google Translate for like 5 years or something. So test. But,
yeah.
All right. I think that may be, as far as like the publishing, self-publishing notes and stuff I had to ask or talk about, is it. I had a whole thing over here to talk about on craft side, which is what we plan to do the whole episode about, but that's okay. So, but it looks like we are about 5 to 10 minutes away from the hour mark, so we'll probably start wrapping things up a little bit. So is there anything else publishing side of things that you wanted to talk about, or that you've done differently since we last had a show or anything like that, Lindsay, before we wrap things up?
Actually, I will say I've experimented with pre-orders a little bit with the last couple of books in my series, and I think that I think we may have talked about it before. Something that on Amazon, if you put a pre-order up there like a couple months early, the sales ranking starts ticking right away. So any sales you get affect that book's sales ranking. You don't like get all, let's say you get like 3,000 pre-orders. Those don't all go like boom and help your sales ranking on release day. It just, they track it all along the way. I've heard that on iTunes, maybe, and some of the other sites, that you can get more of a boost where the pre-orders kind of dump on release day, and it's possible for you to then do well on iTunes, say, just because you sold so many books at once, it gives you a boost up into the rankings. I've not really experienced that myself because I don't get enough pre-orders. I've only done this twice now. I don't get enough love over at iTunes for it to really make a difference. But on Amazon, I'm doing it with the later books in my series because I kind of figure, even if if it's book 6, and if say I sell 1,000 copies opening weekend and it gets up there to like whatever top 500, top 300 in the Amazon store, nobody's going to look at a book 6 and go, "Oh, I'm going to totally buy that." They're either in the series already from the beginning, or they probably don't care about your book 6. So I just think that what I found is just, it's really nice to have it up there for, I did it for book 5, and I'm doing it now for book 6 in my Dragon Blood series. And I've got almost 5,000 pre-orders on Amazon now for book 6. So it's pretty exciting to get that all in your account in one day. It kind of rolls in as like first New Zealand hits midnight, and then Australia, and then you get your readers in Europe and then in the US. So, I figure if your series is doing well, and you want to kind of capture those readers while they're thinking of it. Like if you have a cliffhanger or something, you want to be able to have them order the next book right away. That can be a good time to do a pre-order. Another perk of it is that like my book Raptor, I put it on pre-order in middle of August, and it's been in the steampunk new releases over there on the side ever since then. So instead of 30 days in the new releases, you can basically have up to 120 days because you can be on pre-order for 3 months, and then you can still be in the new releases little window over there for another 30 days after release. So it seems like it gives you more time to be seen and have kind of those casual fans that aren't necessarily on your mailing list and aren't stalking you on Twitter. They're like, oh, look, there's a new book, and order that. So I think it's been pretty good for visibility. But yeah, definitely I did not get the big, huge boost in the rankings on release day with book 5. I wouldn't do it for book 1 in a series. I would still try with a book 1. I'd try to get everybody to buy it that opening week in the hope of actually getting up there in the rankings and having people see it who aren't already fans and giving it a try. But I think for later books in a series, a pre-order can make sense. Or if you're just like a new author and you happen to stumble upon the Amazon love and you're just killing it with your first book, put that pre-order up so people can get it right away before they forget about you. I think that's useful. So
that's interesting. We've never done a pre-order, and part of it was one of the reasons you said is that it's kind of nice to get that ranking boost the first day of a new release, and you don't get that if it's spread out over a pre-order. And part of it, I'll say too, at least with Amazon, I had someone that needed a format done. They're sending me the manuscript tomorrow. They need it done that day because they had a pre-order set up for like this Tuesday or Wednesday or something, And if you miss an Amazon pre-order, you actually lose that privilege for, I'm not sure how long, maybe like 90 days or something like that.
I think it's a whole year.
Oh, really? It's a whole
Yeah.
year? Okay. So yeah, be careful if you're going to do that, and make sure you read all the fine print and that you're going to hit that. And it's another reason to have those publishing schedules that you stick to no matter what. But if something happens and you miss that, then you're kind of screwed out of them. But I don't know, maybe we'll try it too once we get back on track. Because like you said, on a 5th, 6th in series, it doesn't matter quite as much, other than sometimes if you see like a book 5 in the top 100 on Amazon, maybe you'll go see what book 1 is, but it's probably not that many people that do that. So
yeah, I've kind of heard from some people that say, it's when I published my 4th book that my series really took off or something like that. But I already had that sort of like, with the box set, I had the series, got a lot of readers early on. And now I'm just kind of, probably all the people who want steampunk dragons are in the series already. So I'd rather just have them. It's pretty cool, even if you make a decent income, to be able to get that many sales in one 24-hour period. It's pretty awesome. And I don't necessarily know that all those people would go out and buy it right away. If I do know, I've never had a release weekend where I've sold 5,000 books. That just doesn't happen for me. Maybe it happens for Jim Butcher, but that's not my normal experience in the thing. So there's definitely something to be said for getting a big whack of money at once.
Yeah, and like you said, you can put the link to the pre-order in the end of your the new book, especially if you have a really set in stone publishing schedule. You can do something like, if you have your own author site, which you should, and if you don't, let me know, and you can pay me to make one. No, but no, you can do things like have links forward, where you can change where a link goes to, so to say, a redirect, and you can do something like at the end of your book, as soon as you put it out, put in the end of it, you can pre-order the next book here, and you can put that link already. That way, even if your next book is, like you said, 3 months out, if you know it's going to be on that date, you can put that there. And as soon as you have the pre-order page up at Amazon, change the redirect on that link, or have whoever's doing your websites do that, and they can go ahead and pre-order that anytime during those months that normally they would have to just try to keep your book in mind or sign up to your mailing list and hope that they get your email about it. So it does make sense. And I don't know, maybe we should try it also, now that I think I've talked myself into it. So
All right. Yeah. And another good thing is if, like, actually, my sixth book that I'm about to publish that's on pre-order now has kind of a cliffhanger ending where, like, a character seems to be dead at the end.
Oh
And
God,
so,
we did that too. We did that too, and we still it's still a horror story. So.
yeah, well, I'm hoping to stave off some one-star reviews by, like, at the end, I put in a little afterward that's like, oh, want to see if so-and-so is really dead, and if this happens, and if this happens, we pre-order book 7, the final book in the series, right now. So I'm hoping people will see that and go, oh, maybe he's not dead, you know? I mean,
I don't know. I can tell you that when we put the last book, I think I've talked about it before. When we put the last book of our first series out, we have that too, where a spoiler alert, if anyone's going to read the books and care, like turn this off in the next 2 minutes. No, but one of the main characters dies, or so it seems, and at first we didn't put anything. It just ended, and then it was like that was it. And we had always planned on doing that spinoff series, and in the spinoff series, you learn what happens to them. It's like a direct continuation, but we did it with a new series name that related because it goes from a different character's point of view. And I'm not sure if that was a mistake or not, because at first we got lots of like angry reviews saying, "My God, I can't believe I wasted a year, waiting for these and reading this," and then she just ruins it at the end. The whole series was great, and it's just ruined at the end. And angry like messages and emails and stuff, even, which is funny. But so I went back and edited the formatting, and at first I put like from the author after the last page that says, hey, there's going to be a spin-off series, and make sure you read it if you want to figure out more about some loose ends you may have had. So I was kind of vague a little bit, and the same thing. We kept getting them over and over, same stuff every time someone would read it. And so I went back and I put in again. I was like, in bold, I put, if you want to know if so and so is really dead. And I was like, surely God, people reading this are going to realize, oh, of course he's not, or else they wouldn't have put that. And same thing. So again, recently, like a couple months ago, even though this book has been out for 2.5 years, I went back and on the page where it says the end, directly under it, I was like, if you want to find out if he's really alive, go to this next series. So yeah, I would be careful. You're gonna get a lot of hate mail. So.
Well, we'll see. I made it clear that it's the 7th and final book in the series. We'll wrap everything up, and I was actually looking online. I was like looked up Star Trek 2, the original, and I was like, what kind of reception did they get? I wanted to find out, and apparently they got like a really bad reception because they didn't have any. They redid the ending of that, so like. Spock's coffin was on the planet, I guess, and you saw it, and maybe you're thinking, oh, something could happen to that. But so, yeah, it's part of me just wanted to do nothing and have people wonder, and I thought that would be stronger dramatically. But
yeah, we thought that at first too, and it was stronger. There was definitely a lot of feedback, so it was like our worst rated book, star-wise, for a long time, by like a good margin, just because of the end. People were like, "Oh, I loved it until the very last page." And, because that's how it ends. Like it ends with him dying. So, but no, we got a lot of hate and still do sometimes. And people, like I said, a lot of people, as soon as that would happen, wouldn't even wait until from the author. I guess they were just like shutting it and saying, screw this. I'm not reading another word out of this book. So. And,
all right. Well, I still have lots of other characters alive, so hopefully they'll at least want to see what happens to them. We'll see. If you see that's another good reason to do a pre-order. I've sold 5,000 copies, so nobody can go, oh, what happened? Like see the reviews ahead of time before they decide to buy it.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but we'll see. We'll see if that becomes my lowest rated book.
You'll have to go back and edit the format in like a month and say,
just kidding.
Yeah, not really. Read the next book. I promise it gets better. So.
All right. Is that enough babbling for tonight?
I think so. I think we had all this stuff planned to talk about. Instead, we just kind of rambled and had a conversation for an hour. But I guess that was bound to happen since we haven't talked in like 3 months aside from Facebook. So.
Well, hopefully something was vaguely useful for listeners and we didn't depress anybody too much. Don't kill your characters. Don't do this for your day job.
Yeah. Amazon's going to crash. You're going to lose your only stream of income if you go this route. So, no, I think there was some useful stuff, some stuff that I probably would have liked to have heard myself a couple years ago before I started. So, or before I quit my job. I think I still would have quit it, but I may have this year, even with all that was happening, tried to be a little bit more consistent like we were last year. And once you give your readers an expectation on things, it's easy to think your dedicated readers are always, no matter what, gonna be there. But if you kind of go AWOL for a lot longer than they're used to, even your most diehard fans will probably eventually be like, oh well, don't know what happened to them, sort of thing. So yeah, that's it. We ran an hour, so next Sunday, Lindsay won't have any internet problems, and we'll start on time. But I guess it is your turn though, because back when I was in Arizona, I had internet problems a ton. But anyway, before we go, we'll talk about kind of what we're going to do next week in the future shows. So Lindsay and I were talking on Facebook before tonight a little bit, and our show, there's tons of podcasts and information out there. Well, I guess for anything, but there's a lot of podcasts out there for self-publishing and authors, and a lot of it is rehash stuff. I mean, every show seems to have a little bit of tidbits here and there to help out and that are interesting, but there's just so many options. And because of our podcast name, we always have talked a little bit about craft and things, but because the name of the show, we actually rank pretty highly on iTunes and things for the keyword of writing and writing shows and things like that. So we thought we would get more into that side of it a little bit and test that out in the next couple months and may keep it that way. So I'm sure we'll talk more about self-publishing quite a bit, as if this episode is any indicator, even if we don't plan to, we may spend an hour talking about it, but we want to get into some of the other stuff like character development and what we do and what other authors do, and maybe interview some authors more about their process and story and plot and things like that, and spend more time on that maybe than the publishing part. Some weeks or most weeks. Our actually highest downloaded show is the one with Libby, and we predominantly talked about plotting on that show and nonfiction. So I took that as kind of an indicator as well. So we'll get into that. We don't have a guest next week. So next week, we're going to talk about what we were supposed to talk about tonight. And Lindsay and I will both talk a little bit about writing process and character development, stuff like that. And hopefully you guys will like it. If not, though, you can let us know and let us know what you'd rather listen to or watch if you watch live. And do you have any other comments or insights on direction you wanted to go in, Lindsay?
No, that sounds good to me. And well, I would say we will try to filter it, or at least I will, from the point of view of we've actually had some really series that have sold well. A lot of people who teach writing, I've noticed, at the college level and stuff, have one memoir published. So hopefully we can kind of give some advice into writing a series that sells, writing characters that people want to continue to buy, and even after you kill one off and they hate you, that they'll continue to buy the next book, hopefully. So we'll try to keep it a little business minded too, I would think, thinking not just about the creative artistic side, but what can you do with writing that will earn you some money possibly, and whatever we don't know, we'll try to get some good guests on that are wiser than we are and have been around the block for longer, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully you guys are also. And if you wanted to let us know, you can always do it on our website. The link to this show will be thewritingpodcast.com/20. Or send us an email or Twitter, and all that stuff's readily available on our website also. And let us know what you think, because we do it mainly to help everyone else out. And I got a lot of help when I was first starting reading people's blogs and what they did and lessons they learned, and watching podcasts. So hopefully people get some use out of these ones too. So, all right. Well, I think that is everything. Again, this is going to be our new day and time, so we'll be here. I won't say there'll probably be some off. We'll be here most Sundays at 8 Eastern. And Sorry, I just noticed we had more comments. Oh, no worries. I thought we had missed questions. They're just comments saying welcome back, and thanks for that. Looks like Ellie and Pamela on YouTube commented and welcomed us back. So thanks for watching live.
Cool. Hope they didn't mind the half-hour delay. We'll try not to do that next week.
Yeah, well, like I said, it was your turn, so I had a lot of that when we were, which at least you weren't like trying to host them while it was happening. So, but anyway. All right, so like Lindsay said, I hope we didn't depress everyone, but I think it was kind of interesting talking about multiple streams of income. And if you're doing this full time already, you may want to think about diversifying even multiple streams of income in your same books, different formats, things like that, just in case. And make sure if you're looking at quitting soon or something like that, that you're definitely prepared to stick to a schedule where you have releases, so that you don't fall off and have some of those scary months. So. But yeah, to end the show on a sad, depressing note. So. All right, so that's it. We'll see everyone next Sunday, and as always, thanks for watching.
All right, bye everyone.